To give you an update on some of the activities that we've undertaken in the past year on behalf of the town of Clifton Forge and our other member governments. The goal is to show you a little bit, we're going to highlight just a couple of projects that we worked on specifically with the town, but focused on showing off the breadth of the work that we do at the Regional Commission, some of the kinds of projects that you can tap into as we look at our work program development for the coming year. So I always like to start with sort of a bit of a refresher for those who don't know what the Regional Commission is, and there is a big audience here tonight, so this might be an opportunity for some folks to learn the work that we do on behalf of the town and the Highlands in general. The Regional Commission is one of 21 planning districts charged by the state to help our member governments address issues of greater than local significance. That's pretty much the language in the code. And so what that means is our job is to help you do the things that are the same challenges and opportunities that your neighbors may be addressing, to find cost-efficient solutions to those things, to take advantage of opportunities that extend beyond the town's borders, and to connect you to state and federal resources. We often serve as the liaison between certain state and federal agencies to help bring resources and project opportunities and funding here to the town. And I'll talk about some examples of those in just a moment. About half of the work we do is transportation. As you can imagine, that is an issue that crosses jurisdictional boundaries a lot, but we do work in community development, economic development, housing, and even the last couple of years work around addiction and recovery as another issue that crosses jurisdictional boundaries. We think we're a pretty good investment for every dollar that we bring in local dues. We leverage that against another $11 in state, federal, and other resources, and that supports our work at the Commission. It does things like support housing construction at places in our region, other implementation projects and things that we can do, again, to support the town and your neighbors. You heard me say the word we a lot. We do, my staff at the Commission, I think we do amazing work, but the we I mean is you guys. We don't really get anything done without the participation of our local governments, of our commissioners who come to those meetings every month to sit at the table or call me and my staff up with project ideas. So I want to take a moment to recognize Ms. Loudermilk and Mr. Unroe for your participation on the Regional Commission. Ms. Loudermilk has been participating on our legislative committee, helping us do work in Richmond to help bring more resources and attention to the challenges here. So without your participation, we would know less what you need and what the kinds of projects that we need to do in the town of Clifton Forge and in the Highlands. So I'm going to talk about a couple projects. Before I get to the project, I do want to offer a quick thank you. The Commission traditionally has hosted a legislative luncheon every year for all of our General Assembly delegation throughout our service area, which extends from Franklin County up here to the Highlands. We got to hold that in Roanoke, but our legislative committee last year decided to do a focused luncheon here in the Highlands, just to focus on kind of the rural needs in the Highlands and Craigin and Botetourt, our Appalachian Regional Commission communities. We reached out to Delegate Austin. He asked for it to be held at the Masonic Theater, so we're really happy to work with Teresa Hammond there and Mr. Unroe on getting that organized and scheduled for hosting it here in Clifton Forge. It was a really great opportunity for the Highlands communities in Craig and Botetourt to show off everything that's going well, but also to talk about your needs. As we know, it's a very different place in Richmond now, and we've lost a lot of influence, anything that's not Northern Virginia, and so engaging with our elected representatives is more important than ever, and we appreciate your hosting us here and also your participation and meeting with the delegate and talking about your needs. So we're excited to continue that and to continue to make the case for rural Virginia to get the resources and policies that we need to be successful in our part of the state. So in terms of some projects that we have recently wrapped up that have some things the town can participate in. The first is our electric vehicle infrastructure plan, and this is really an effort to complement some work that VDOT did looking at statewide infrastructure for the growing electric and hybrid electrical vehicle market. What VDOT did was look pretty much along the 81 and 64 corridor for what kind of needs to be there so that these cars have a place to charge. What we wanted to make sure was that our small towns and rural communities in our service area didn't miss out on the opportunity to potentially meet that market. And very specifically, what we're looking at is, unlike going to a gas pump, which takes a minute or two, if you need to charge up a vehicle, you're probably waiting for 10, 20, 30 minutes. And that's really an opportunity to capitalize on visitation, on getting people in to shop, to use your restaurants, because they're going to be waiting a little while anyways, and this is a great opportunity to encourage them to come visit places that they wouldn't have otherwise maybe looked at visiting. So what this plan does, and this is available now, it's available for your use immediately. This looks at like recommended land use policies, information about how to make sure the grid is prepared to support charging infrastructure, the kinds of technology that are out there and where that market is going, and has some information on priority areas where our localities may want to look at doing this. And the goal is, this provides tools that allow you to do what makes sense for you. If you don't want the stations here, you don't have to. But if you want them here, or you want them here in a certain way, this provides some information for your staff to kind of go about what you need to do to prepare, and potentially funding. You know, how do you actually get these things funded and built? Ultimately, what we want to make sure, when someone pulls up on their Tesla app and they want to see where they need to pull over, we want Clifton Forge to pop up on that app so that they pull here and not just to a Sheetz, you know, at an exit. So that is out there now. If you're interested in looking more at this, please reach out to me or our staff. We'll probably have the official kind of announcement of this next month or our April commission meeting. Another effort, I wanted to highlight this just to show our engagement with federal agencies. You're probably very well aware that one of the things that we undertook the last year was assisting the town on the development and update of your comprehensive plan. Many of you worked with Brian Hill and Allison Snett on our staff to pull those meetings together, get public input, do the writing and development of the plan. The resources we get to do this kind of work comes from our partnership with the Appalachian Regional Commission. So they give us some funds to work on behalf of our ARC communities, which includes Clifton Forge, Alleghany County, Covington, Craig, and Botetourt. And so these are funds that we can use to do any kind of work on your behalf. We try to focus on regional projects, but anytime there's an opportunity to do local tech support where we can sort of be staff that you don't have, these federal agencies do bring those resources in. So this is just an example of a very focused local technical support project we did specifically to support your needs, but as an example of how we can tap into federal resources to bring things that you might not be able to get directly, but do come through our role as a liaison with, in this case, with ARC. And finally, I want to highlight the Ready Appalachia grant writing program. And you might remember, I think I spoke with you a little bit last year about this when this first launched. This is a program that also funded by the Appalachian Regional Commission to help our ARC communities access grant funding that you might not otherwise be able to get. And the way that this works is we received $100,000. We hired 5 on-call professional grant writers. So these are people who know federal and state and other sorts of grants. And we provide them for free. You just have to let us know what kind of projects and grant opportunities you're looking at, and we can plug you into those folks, and they'll do all the work. I'm happy to report that Mr. Unroe has been a very prolific user of that program. We met this morning, as a matter of fact, talking about using those grant writers to support the State of Good Repair bridge work in downtown Clifton Forge. We've been asked to assist the Masonic Theater on accessing some operations funding through a professional grant writer who knows arts programs, and they're at work on that as we speak. We've done additional work in the Highlands around funding and research on the pad site and some water infrastructure for the county as well. So these folks do both the grant writing, but they also do project development and grant research. If there's a project that you're not quite sure what's out there that might fit, but want some help just identifying what those sources are, we can plug you into those folks, and then they can additionally help to essentially write those grants and bring those funds and projects in. And there's, like I said, we've got transportation, we've got infrastructure projects, arts and cultural projects, and so forth that are all in the works right now. That program ends in September, so we really want to spend every dollar of that we got. So we're hoping, please keep the projects coming. And I don't want to, miss out what I mentioned about the Masonic Theater. If you have nonprofits or folks that you want to approve that for their use, they can tap into these resources as well. So it's not just necessarily town projects, but if there are partners that can be benefited from this, you can certainly bring those my way. We can see where they can fit into this effort. So this is available again right now through September. About halfway done with it, and want to get as many projects as possible. Another example of our role as sort of the direct liaison with the Appalachian Regional Commission. I could spend the whole night talking about the projects, but I just wanted to highlight those three to show some different areas where we provide support. I have provided support in the past year. Some things that are in the works that you will probably participate in. We are about to launch the regional water supply plan. That is a DEQ required effort, and we're going to be the lead on that on the behalf of our member governments. We're going to be beginning some data collection work on that process between now and June, and then over the next couple of years we'll be getting additional funding to lead that. We're actually leading two projects. We're leading a project up here in the Highlands, and then the rest of the Roanoke Valley and Bedford, we're also working on a project. So two different water supply projects that we will be leading. In this case, we'll also be working very closely with Central Shenandoah, because your water supply goes through both us and the Central Shenandoah. So they'll be participating in that as well. We're about halfway through the disaster mitigation plan. Some of you may have been participating or will soon be asked to participate in some parts of this planning effort. This is another example of our role as a liaison. In this case, we work both with the Virginia Department of Emergency Management as well as FEMA on this project. We're the lead on it. It is a required plan that needs to be in place before communities can access any disaster-related funding, either pre-disaster mitigation, things like flood control, generator hookup, there's all kinds of things that fall into that, or post-disaster recovery funds. This plan needs to be in place. I always cite several years ago, Lynchburg, there was a tornado that hit a part of Lynchburg, caused some significant destruction. They had let their plan lapse, and so they could not get any FEMA funding to address the impacts of that tornado. So this is a really important thing to get in place. We're about halfway done. I believe we expect to have this wrapped up in October. Again, if you haven't heard from us, you probably will soon on some of what the town may be looking at in terms of potential natural disasters. Last thing I'll highlight, our comprehensive economic development strategy. This is our partnership with the federal EDA, Economic Development Administration, and this is a way to potentially bring dollars into things like industrial site development, workforce training, talent development. We're trying to get some housing as part of this, because we know that's a critical thing for economic development. People need jobs, they need someplace to live before they can get to those jobs. This plan is one of those other things that before you can receive federal funding, you need to have this plan in place and often have projects listed in this plan before not just EDA, but folks like USDA also use this as a funding decision. Every 5 years, we sort of strip it down and rebuild it from the ground up based on what you need. And we are in the process of doing that now. The plan will be done in June. And we're going to be focusing on a project prioritization. It's like, what are the really key things that the town of Clifton Forge feels you need to be successful? Are there redevelopment projects? Are there job creation projects? Cultural institutions and amenities? And how do we prioritize that or identify funding opportunities in this so that the commission can do a better job of kind of proactively identifying ways to get these things built and actually get them on the ground and just out of the pages of the plan. So this is another thing we do on your behalf on a big regional level, and you'll see more about this in the coming months. So I appreciate your time. I didn't want to go too in depth. I just want to cover kind of 50,000 foot view of some of the stuff the commission is doing right now, and some stuff that you can expect to come down the line. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to work with you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those now about any of these projects or anything else that you might want to know about the commission. But I just appreciate the opportunity to take some time this evening and go over this information with you. Yes?
I don't know if I quite understood. You said we lost something to Northern Virginia?
So the last round of redistricting, a lot of Southwest Virginia, the districts grew larger and we lost elected representatives, and a lot of those folks went to Northern Virginia where the population got denser, so they drew smaller districts and there's more people up there. So a lot of the kind of electoral power of the state went up to the Northern Virginia area. And about a third of the General Assembly turned over, and a lot of those new folks who don't know what they're doing yet are also from sort of Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads. So there was a real kind of power shift in the Generalists in Richmond to the area, and that's why we do things like engaging more closely with Delegate Austin and Senator Head and our elected representatives, just to remind them, there's still really critical needs here, and we really still need their help in Richmond, and it's a bigger fight for them now after those elections last year.
Thank you.
I try not to get into politics, but we're kind of being forced to get into politics.
Jeremy, I don't have a question, but more of a comment and a thank you. I want to thank you publicly for all the tremendous amount of support and knowledge that the commission provides to the town. You make it possible for us to pull off some projects and things that we couldn't do without your help. And one of them you briefly touched on is we're working really closely with one of the grant writers for the State of Good Repair funds through VDOT for the replacement of the Ridgeway Street Bridge, the bridge that goes beside the Five Sides building and in front of the Alleghany building. We're working on that now. In reality, it's going to take several months to get that through the process, so we're hoping to look at sometime 2026 or early 2027 for the replacement of that bridge. And we obviously couldn't really navigate that efficiently without the knowledge of Tracy, the grant writer, and her help. And then you also mentioned the EV charging stations, and I'm sure you remember, but back last summer you worked with Josh Taylor at the Chamber of Commerce and Tourism when he went through the Virginia Rural Leadership Institute, and he was able to secure 2 EV charging stations for Clifton Forge and 2 for the city of Covington. And the boxes you walked by downstairs in the hallway is our first EV charging station. It's a 2-station charger. It will be put in the parking lot here at Town Hall. The representatives from Virginia Clean Cities came by and we took them to several locations around town, and they picked what they thought would be the best, most efficient sites for town, and one of them's on each end of our business district. So we're working with a local contractor now, and the weather's been hampering, but we'll get that installed probably by April. So we did take advantage of that also, and thank you and Josh for doing that for both localities.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't want a professional grant writer. I did not understand how valuable that was, folks who really know what they're doing. And it's a full-time job to write some of these grants. So being able to get access to these resources and provide these professionals to do this work on your behalf has been really exciting. It's something that when this ARC money runs out, we would like to continue. So we're going to be looking for ways to continue that funding after October.